finding safe for work, humanized My Little Pony artwork that isn't Equestria Girls style was pretty difficult, but not for me. Hey everyone, John Whittington, aka Napoleon Dynamite here. Welcome to the very first commentary we have ever done on one of our own videos. This was the first video that I worked on and want to keep in memory of 2016. 2016 was rough. There was one other video I worked on, and I'm trying super hard to forget about it. Some of you that follow me on YouTube probably know which one it is. If you're following on VidMe, be glad you don't know which one it is. I'm not planning on releasing that video to VidMe anytime soon. So here's the funny part. This video was originally planned to be like a third video that would be released in 2016, a fall release video. But we moved it up for reasons that are kind of sad, actually. At the time that I had filmed the footage that I would be using for the Sailor Moon revisit video for Lost Notes, we received phone calls about my brother-in-law, who had collapsed in his own home, was being hospitalized. They were trying to get his heart to work again. A few hours later on that day, while at the hospital, hoping he would pull through, the doctors made it official. They had pulled him off of machines that were trying to get his heart working again, because any pulse they got was way too weak to try and sustain life. So when it came down to dedicating a future review in his memory, I opted for Equestria Girls to be that particular one, because if anything, I want it to be something that I know is family-friendly content. And yeah, while he may not have had any real impact on what I did with my videos, I still wanted to honor him in any way that I could. Funny story about that joke, the Hasbro's gonna make a cannon. I want to say it was like about a couple of months after I had made that joke for the video. Tiffany found on Amazon this hilarious mistake that came up. At that particular time, Hasbro was announcing My Little Pony Guardians of Harmony toys and everything. Granted, nothing was actually up and available for purchase until like closer to Christmas time, if I remember right. But it was announced that there was a My Little Pony Pinkie Pie up on Facebook, or not on Facebook, on Amazon. And the mistake was they had photos of Transformers Combiner Wars Onslaught for this particular listing. Oops. Hasbro definitely messed that up, but hey, my joke became canon in that particular case. Speaking of canon, going through this particular discussion about the flight issues with Twilight Sparkle, that was a huge one for me, because I really did kind of get messed up on that one when I was first watching Season 3's finale and then this movie, Natural, before critical work and everything. It did seem weird that Twilight would be able to fly so perfectly for that ending in Season 3, but then starting with this movie, which carried over into Season 4, Twilight still hasn't gotten used to the wing. She's not a perfect flyer, the whole shebang. It was way too weird, way too awkward. Kind of like the joke that I was originally going to make there when talking about the springs, wings, I meant wings. At first I was going to go for a brony in-joke, but because of its very suggestive and sexual nature, I opted to delete that joke entirely from the initial scripting, and that's when we went for the cleaner springs, wings, I meant wings joke, preferably. With this review, I tried to get a little bit more technical, at least trying new things out, because every video that I've worked on since I had first tried to revive this series through the Darkwing Duck review, I have tried to do brand new things with my video editing software in Magic's Movie Editor Pro. Trying new things. I had learned keyframing by the time I worked on the Friendship is Magic review, and I wanted to continue stuff like that for new content. And I felt like working with what I did here, adding in things like Hipster Hasbro, zooming in on the text for Sunset Shimmer's box. All these things were just extensions of things that I had learned, but I'm glad to say that, it allowed me to get more technical on this stuff. Keep the video production quality as high as possible despite not having the best equipment at that time. And we're still working on trying to upgrade equipment. When I was filming this, along with the Sailor Moon Revisited Lost Notes, I was still getting used to the brand new microphone. With this one, I forgot to check for buzzes and everything for the on-camera footage recordings. So, unfortunately, if you're watching this particular review, you are going to still hear all that buzzing and everything. I have yet to actually see if I still have that recording, have everything set up in the project file so I can be able to redo it all. But also, when I was recording the commentary for this review that I would throw over each of the film scenes, I was disappointed with the recordings on that because more so the way I delivered the lines. I sounded super depressed, super like I didn't care what I was doing with this review. So I threw that recording out, and instead of recording with the microphone again, I recorded using my my iPhone. But because it was a newer iPhone that I got, the mic was completely different on it. So the quality difference between audio commentary over film footage versus the audio that was recorded for the on-camera segments, it's, as Donald Trump would say, it is a huge difference. But as time goes on, I hope to get a little bit more of a mastery of what I'm working with. This rant was definitely one of those things that I will legitimately say, as of now, I still sympathize with every word that I had said. I don't understand why you would say, don't bring all these other characters in because it might upset the balance of an alternate universe. However, Sunset Shimmer was already thrown into this universe. If you read a prequel comic book, she was thrown in there as a punishment. Yet no ramifications were discussed about what if we threw her in there? Is that going to upset the balance of this particular world? Nothing was brought up there. Now you've got Twilight being thrown in here. It really, I can't help it. I gotta question it all. Is the balance still being upset because you're throwing Twilight into this universe, just like Sunset Shimmer was thrown in there? But now you're getting concerned over throwing more ponies in, creating a major balance upset. I don't get it. I really don't get it. One of those things that I have against this movie, some of the things that they have in terms of the logic, nothing worked for the critical mindset.
Congratulations, Megan McCarthy.
And I couldn't help it. I had to go on to that particular discussion. The freak out counter was definitely something new added on. Counters will probably come up with any reviews that we do on movies where things are like a ridiculous running gag that make you go, ugh, really? Or maybe it's just for fun because, like, well, what if there's jokes that I wanted to make about this, but I chose not to? Kind of like what Nostalgia Critic did when it came down to jokes he could have made with the He-Man Christmas special. There's probably going to be more counters as more movie reviews come into play. And, oh, Guy. Oh, man, I totally forgot about the 90s Sailor Moon joke. And, yes, that just shows how I feel about it right there. Big old face palm. I did not want to relive that. Thank you. I hated doing everything that I did with that particular review. And now you come to where I really started doing things differently here. The Thug Life joke in there, believe it or not, was a last-minute addition during the video production. I had been watching at that time a lot of Steven Crowder videos, especially when he was doing stuff on location or hidden cam, just to kind of put what some people he made fun of on display or into practice to kind of see, does this really work like they want it to? So when it came to watching these particular videos, I felt like I had to do a Thug Life joke for this particular review. And it made sense, especially when you consider how much of a jerk that Sunset Shimmer was in the beginning of this movie. Okay, in the beginning of this movie, I mean throughout this movie. And this particular bit here with the newsbreakers thing, this was, this had a lot of layers thrown into it, as well as a technical aspect of zooming into having just my face on there right above the ticker tape. Finding one of those kinds of things, it was a little bit difficult in the beginning, but if you find the right resources on YouTube, you can definitely get one of those and put them into play. I loved working on that particular bit. And when it came to this particular bit right here, I will admit my voice does get loud at times, but I was not expecting to peak a microphone that was many feet away from where my mouth was and everything at that particular time. It's hilarious that I could even peak a mic like that. So definitely a headphone user warning needed to be put into place. At first I was going to leave that completely raw, but again, I did not want to ruin the ears of any headphone viewers when it came down to when I released this to the internet. So there were a lot of things I definitely experimented with on this one. Like I said, with doing that Thug Life bit, I had never done anything quite like that where I could freeze a single frame, change its pitch, getting that timing right, especially with turned down for what, right at that bass drop. That took a lot of time to work on. And that was back when I was first experimenting with that particular thing, when I made a test clip for it. I want to say that took me at least an hour getting the timing right and getting the footage clips done properly. I did have a few issues with getting that particular freeze frame, so I had to find the frame, do a save as, I wish it was a PNG instead of a JPEG, so there wasn't that much blurring, especially on the zoom. But at least the intention was all still there when it came down to it. Of course, there's moments that you saw where footage was up in the upper corner during discussions. I had originally introduced that during the All Dogs Christmas Carol for just one particular bit. I had often thought about using it for any time that I'm doing stuff on camera, just have it up there in the upper corner in like a small window like that. But again, this was stuff where it's like, do I really want to mess with the flow right now? Do too much experimentation? Let's kind of take it easy, but do what we feel could work for this particular video. Fun fact, when this review was first released to YouTube, about a couple days after the upload, this particular bit cut content ID'd by Hasbro. Luckily, it didn't take the whole video away, it was just this particular scene. But what was hilarious was the timestamp frame that they put up there was not only the footage from the movie, as you saw there, but my time on camera going and questioning if this was animal cruelty or just plain cruelty. I still ask that, whether humorously or seriously, I have yet to figure out. When you consider it's Pony Twilight Sparkle versus human Twilight Sparkle. Yes, it's Pony in a human body, but at the same time, does that mean it's animal abuse because it's technically Pony, but is it just plain cruelty because it's a human? I don't know. this particular bit here, a last minute change was made a few different times, but this is the one that stayed. At first, I was going to do, in the initial scripting, I had it written out where I was getting bleeped whilst, calling Rainbow Dash a cheater. But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm cleaning up the script. Do I want to keep a bleep bit in there? I said no. So then I decided to just go with two different options. I would have random audio, which was really just the commentary, me yelling out the fact that Rainbow Dash was a cheater, or me being on camera calling her out as a cheater. Neither one stuck, so I went with the psych footage because it worked, because then you could properly cut the footage just like that scene to make it work just as well, if not better, than what some people probably would have done on that one, which was just do a head swap. So there were some last minute changes when it came down to the production for this review, and I definitely do not regret any of the changes that I made, any of the additions that were made. And I definitely do not regret going and doing this. The dance bit was something I had thought about. I had written it. I wasn't sure if I would actually follow through on it. When Tiffany offered to make the ears and the tail for that particular bit, if I was to go ahead and dance on screen, I accepted. I was like, hey, challenge accepted. You make that, I will definitely do it. And so then I shot, after I came home from work one night, the same night that I had worked on this particular review, right after I came home from work, I threw my outfit back on, I put on everything, and in one take, completely improv, I had filmed that entire dance sequence. You can watch the whole sequence on VidMe now. YouTube's not going to take it because the copyrighted audio. And I do not want to risk another potential copyright strike. I've had 2 videos get taken down. I do not want a third. But I definitely had fun working on that particular scene. I'm definitely not going to regret going and doing this stuff, especially since it seems like the dances are very entertaining things that I can put up, whether it's I'm doing it for something completely different, or it happens to be something I'm doing for a review. Let's get back to talking about the review. Fun fact, production got halted partway through the editing process, putting all the clips together. Because Magix decided to be a pain in the rear and not import the movie in full. So the last bit that I had to work with, which was Twilight returned to Equestria and had the encounter with Flash Sentry. Everybody's discussing the whole thing during catch-up, all of that. The last bit that I needed, which was Twilight talking about Flash Sentry, that part got removed during import for the dumbest reason. I think it couldn't handle how much memory was going into it. I really don't know. So I had spent a lot of time working on finding another editor, editing software, just so I could have that particular clip, just so I could finish production of this stupid video. I couldn't believe it. Now this one I did use a few more reference clips than usual. Well, I say than usual, I mean as usual. 2 spoilers, jokes out of Doctor Who, the psych joke, and then throwing in Pepsi Man, just totally at random. I had a lot of fun looking for some of these things. The Pepsi Man one, blame Proton John from the Let's Play universe and Twitch for when he played that particular game online, reintroducing the world to Pepsi Man. So after that video, after that whole thing was done, I had to try and track down some of these full motion video clips just so I had that bit to work the joke. And that actually was scripted. That was not a last minute adjustment. kind of like the joke regarding the demon form of Sunset Shimmer. That one was scripted. The makeup removal. I do not regret that one. I probably, looking at it now, I probably could have read that line off better. Maybe I could have even written it better. Maybe even thrown in a Maybelline makeup joke. Though I don't think that would work with the fact that we suddenly had a change from good to ugly. That's not going to work out in this particular case. I'd also thought of another joke. I didn't write it into the scripts at all. For people who don't know, I am politically incorrect off camera. And I mean, if you look at my Twitter feed, I am definitely politically incorrect. I at first was going to make a gay pride joke on the rainbow attack. I avoided it because I did not want to get too controversial when it came to working on these things. If politics work their way into any future videos, it's me just being me. Or maybe the clip I use just fits certain jokes. I can't help it. This is what I do. I talk about things, I make referential humor, and it may even be a little politically incorrect, but as long as it's not super inappropriate for a G to PG audience, I'm fine with it. If it has to push its way up into a PG-13, I'm still fine with it. If it pushes towards an R direction, where you need to be at least 17 to watch the video, I will say no. I am not going to put that kind of humor in there. Just like I said, when it came down to that one particular in-joke, I am not putting that in. I completely opted not to put it in. And still will not throw anything inappropriate in. This scene, this was what I was talking about earlier. This was the one I couldn't get imported properly because Magix decided to cut it off. So I had to find something open source so I could be able to properly crop this clip and import it so I can finish the production. And with that, the movie comes to a close. But in the end, I'm glad that I was able to get it all together. I still stand by my score because in the end, I really wanted to enjoy this. I didn't want to hate it. And I still don't hate it, but I will not call it 8 or 9. Definitely not 10. 7 seems reasonable because there were flaws to it, but it's still entertaining. I really could not say this is a garbage film in any way. While, yes, the rest of the Brony fandom will probably say it's more worthy of a 2, I stand by what I have to say on this one. This was a long time coming. It was a year after I had worked on the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic review. And I know Rainbow Rocks will be delayed quite a bit at the time of recording this commentary, but hopefully I can be able to get to the point where I'm making more consistent content and you won't have to wait a year between Equestria Girl movies for those particular reviews, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm glad to have shared some behind-the-scenes thoughts on this. Guys, I really hope that you can definitely continue to enjoy the content. I will continue to provide more for the future. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you when the next review comes around. Still a sad way to end a main review.